This video is brought to you by Squarespace. More on that in a bit. The early 2000s was a fun time for car enthusiasts. Iconic JDM sports cars, Fast and Furious 1 and 2, just 1 and 2, Need for Speed Underground, body kits, underglow lighting, car meets in parking lots. Cars were still relevant and present in culture, enough so to justify a whole slew of ridiculous TV shows, from Monster Garage to really peak Top Gear. And then this show came out, MTV's Pimp My Ride, hosted by Xzibit. Pimp My Ride stood out in that it was about transforming regular people's beat-up daily drivers. Not that they were made any more practical or faster, instead they were turned into these rolling fever dreams of PlayStations and fish tanks and candy paint. It was truly absurd, hilarious, and even scandalous, and also the most early 2000s thing imaginable. So come with me on a ride back in time just a few decades to an era that feels entirely foreign, one of the strangest TV shows of all time. Now, before we get too far into this crazy story, a quick pit stop. I've been building a proper home base for the BART brand with Squarespace, a website for my channels as well as for my book and really any other project I undertake. Squarespace makes it so simple and easy. It's great because with literally no experience, I can have a ready-to-go website that matches my branding without all the headaches typically associated with building a website. Whether you're booking client slots and consults or shipping t-shirts or posters worldwide, whatever it is, Squarespace nails it. Acuity scheduling lets clients grab a time, pay, and also auto reminders. And then there's expanded global shipping, which puts real-time rates from local carriers by destination, size, and weight so that you're never eating unexpected shipping costs. I'm also using Squarespace's e-commerce to sell my book, and the checkout is really smooth and secure. If you've been thinking about launching your own build journal, club site, storefront, whatever it may be, whatever your needs, head to squarespace.com/Bart's Car Stories for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use code Bart's Car Stories to get 10% off your first purchase of a domain or website. Big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Let's dive back in. Into this wonderful landscape of reality TV came two childhood friends from New Jersey, Bruce Beresford Redman and Rick Harretts. They had a bizarre idea. What if you took the most hopeless junk cars rusting in people's driveways and turned them into kind of like these fantasy machines? This concept wasn't about performance. It wasn't even really about making the cars better for their owners. It was more about spectacle, making something so over the top that even people who didn't care about cars wouldn't be able to help but stop and stare, which was really the formula for most of these kinds of shows at this time. They pitched it as a part makeover show, part wish fulfillment. Instead of just giving someone a new car, you took their beat up car, their junker, and you pimped it into something one of a kind. It was like a mix between the popular car customization shows at the time and something like MTV Cribs. To pull this off, they needed a shop that could handle this kind of work. They found it in West Coast Customs, a business started by a teenager, Ryan Friedlinghaus, nicknamed Shady. Frustrated with bouncing between different specialty shops, Ryan dreamed of a one-stop custom shop where everything, paint, fabrications, electronics, you named it, all happened under one roof. By the late 90s, West Coast Customs had started to attract attention, and the big break came when Shaquille O'Neal sent his Lincoln Navigator in for customization, and that job led to a friendship and dozens of builds for Shaq. Soon other celebrities, people like 50 Cent, Ludacris, Steve Harvey, and even Xzibit became clients. When MTV producers came knocking about a car makeover show, hoping to cash in on what the Discovery Channel was specializing in, Ryan actually laughed at the name, Pimp My Ride, convinced that nobody would buy into it. But he agreed to a pilot, setting the stage for what would become one of MTV's most iconic and popular shows. Now, at first, producers wanted Shaq to host, but he was too busy and also too expensive. Ryan suggested his friend Xzibit, who had already had a couple of his cars done at the shop. Now, this was not an obvious choice. At the time, Xzibit was, best known as a rapper. Not exactly a family-friendly rapper either, but he was charismatic, funny, and pretty relatable. Most importantly, he agreed to do it, mostly in hopes that MTV would play more of his music videos. It was a gamble, but it worked. His mix of deadpan roasting and genuine enthusiasm made him a pretty good host. He often made fun of people's cars, he bonded with people, and he became kind of like a pop culture meme in the process. Pimp My Ride debuted on March 4th, 2004, and quickly became one of MTV's highest rated shows. Its formula was pretty addictive. Introduce some kid with a terrible car, make fun of them, and then unveil a transformation that looked like it had rolled straight out of a video game. The budgets were around $20,000 to $30,000 per build, which were supposedly just enough for the West Coast Customs crew to get truly ridiculous. Some of the wildest builds include a Chevy S10 pickup with a working pool table in the bed, a band's Econoline van fitted with a hot tub, because that's what you need as a band. A Crown Vic with a fully functional medical scanner in the trunk. Then there was the coffin grill in a hearse. Turning a funeral vehicle into a portable barbecue is absurd, both thematically and practically. One of the creators of the show actually drove a hearse in high school, so I can't help but think that this came from his imagination at that time. The mud flap LCD screens on a K5 Blazer from season 5 that Xzibit even admitted was useless. There was also the chandelier plus espresso machine in a Trans Am. In one episode, a 97 RAV4 was pimped with a built-in chocolate fountain, candles, and romantic decor for date night vibes. And later, the owner of this RAV4 claimed that many of these features were removed after filming because they were unsafe or didn't work. These cars often bordered on absurd art projects. One build had nothing but a gigantic subwoofer so powerful that it nearly rattled the car apart. But that was the point. No matter how impractical, the builds were memorable. For 3 years, Pimp My Ride was everywhere. MTV reran it constantly. The show's over-the-top energy fit perfectly with the era of DVD players and headrests, chrome rims, and the idea that more was always better. It also resonated because it was relatable. Unlike Cribs or Monster Garage, these people, they were just everyday young people with broken down crappy cars. They weren't millionaires or celebrities. The fairy tale transformation made viewers believe that their own car could someday be special. International versions popped up in the UK and Germany and Netherlands and Spain. Car culture in games like Need for Speed and Midnight Club reflected the same vibe. For a moment, pimping your ride was pretty mainstream. Though Xzibit was the face of the show, the supporting cast of builders at West Coast Customs became stars in their own right. Personalities like Mad Mike, the electronics wizard, and also Ish, the upholstery specialist. They gave this series a nice flavor, Their banter and also their frustrations made the team feel, kind of real. There was a real tension behind the scenes. Ryan, that is the shop's founder, was constantly caught between MTV's demand for quick, outrageous spectacle and also his own desire to actually maintain some semblance of credibility as a serious customizer. And that friction was real, and it came through in episodes, the same way that shows like American Chopper had that kind of same tension, which oftentimes was the real appeal of these shows. But behind the scenes, the problems were piling up. Contestants reported that cars often took 6 or 7 months to get back, even though the show implied these quick turnarounds. Features installed for TV like champagne dispensers, full theater systems, they were often removed before the car was returned. Some contestants said their cars ran way worse afterward because of basic mechanical issues not being addressed. These strange additions, they were rarely engineered into the build in any sort of practical way, which isn't surprising. One Maxima owner recalled that the upgrades added so much weight that the suspension on his car collapsed, and it lasted barely a month. In one infamous case, producers welded the front and back ends of 2 different cars together for a Ford Escort build, and it was so unsafe that they had to scrap it and buy the contestant a Scion XB instead. Even Xzibit struggled with the show's success. Constant filming meant less time for touring and recording, and also in hip-hop circles, I think he felt that his credibility kind of slipped. He just sort of became the MTV host guy, rather than, the hardcore rapper he'd fancied himself to be. Kind of like Nick Cannon a little bit, though Xzibit's a little more hardcore than Nick Cannon. Also, Xzibit was never really a car guy, and that sometimes showed in the show, and also he often was frustrated by people coming up and talking to him about cars when he didn't really care. As with many MTV reality shows and just reality shows in general, Pimp My Ride was not nearly as spontaneous as it looked. The famous big reveal was usually filmed in a way that ensured maximum drama. Contestants were often kept from seeing their cars until the cameras were rolling, and also their reactions were heavily edited or sometimes prompted by producers. Even the segments where Xzibit roasted contestants, that wasn't always so off the cuff. cuff. And then on top of that, MTV's just like exaggerated, ridiculous editing style. It was almost cartoonish, and it made the show feel unmistakably early 2000s. After 4 seasons, West Coast Customs pulled out, with Ryan feeling the show's gimmicky reputation hurt his business with serious clients. MTV shifted production to Galpin Autosports with Xzibit and Mad Mike, but, the spark was gone. Ratings collapsed, and by 2007, just 73 episodes later, the show was canceled. The fallout wasn't pretty. West Coast Customs later faced fines. Xzibit was hit with nearly $1 million in unpaid taxes. Contestants aired their grievances online, and blogs in the 2010s declared Pimp My Ride as fake. Worst of all, co-creator Bruce Beresford Redman was convicted of murdering his wife while on vacation, which really did cast a dark shadow over the show's legacy. And yet, despite all of this, despite Pimp My Ride being one of the most dated shows you could ever go and experience, you still should go experience it if you haven't. People still love it. The phrase Pimp My Ride is still shorthand for extreme car customization. Xzibit became an internet legend. The show helped reshape the early 2000s car culture. Even though it only lasted 3 years, it feels bigger, in part because MTV reran it constantly. But Pimp My Ride is truly embedded in my memory and in the memory of my generation. It's a part of who we are, if you liked vehicles and cars or any of that kind of stuff. In recent years, nostalgia has sparked talk of revivals. There's also a new project called Resurrected Rides, which aims to bring back that kind of makeover formula. Not as good of a name, I will say. Pimp My Ride was messy, ridiculous, and at times dishonest, but it also represented a cultural moment where cars weren't just transportation. They could function as an expression of your identity, for better or worse. And the show taught a generation that even the worst beater car could become a dream machine, though maybe, with less neon lights or PlayStations. For many in my generation, Pimp My Ride was a gateway into car culture. Instead of focusing just on performance tuning, it glamorized the idea that customization could kind of be whatever you wanted it to be. For me, it reminds me of the good old days. How about you though? Did you watch this show or others like it? Let us know in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Drive safe.